Hey guys, welcome back to my lifting series where I record as much of my workouts as I possibly can. Today is week 2, day 3 of my MyoMax training program. You guys can get it down in the description down below if you want to, but full disclosure, it's $10. And you really don't need the program because I provide pretty much everything that I'm doing for free on YouTube. So you guys can like scrub through the timestamps, look at every single set and rep, and even the stuff that I don't get to, I end up telling you guys at the end. So you really don't need the program, but if you want to be able to like write it in for yourself, then you can do so by purchasing it. But anyway, let's get into it. Today is an accessory day, so I'm doing like shoulders and arms and abs, and I'm starting off today with like a main shoulder compound lift. So this one's a compound lift because I'm engaging both the shoulder joint and the elbow joint while pressing the weight up. And this is a like shoulder plate loaded press. And the reason why I really like this one in particular is because, first of all, I don't know if you guys can see it, but this back is actually like down to like an 80 or 70 degree incline, which presents the shoulders with a safer pressing area to press the weight up so that it doesn't like mess with the rotator cuff or anything like that. And then on top of that, I'm making sure that I have the seat relatively high so that by the time the handles actually hit the safeties here, I can get that full range of motion. And then, sorry, I keep adding points, but lastly, I like that it converges at the top. So if you guys don't have access to this, like, I think it's a hammer, it's a hammer strength iso lateral shoulder press. If you guys don't have access to this machine, which most of you probably do because it's pretty standard, then just look for something that checks all those boxes. It has a 80 to 70 degree incline. It converges at the top, and then, you can adjust the seat accordingly. As long as all of those needs are met, then you're golden with the shoulder press of your choosing. But anyway, on to what I'm doing today. I'm going out from a 45 and a 35 on each side to a 45 and a 45. So it's 2 plates on each side. I couldn't resist. Going up. I think last time I hit 8 to 10 repetitions, but as long as I hit 6, then I'm okay with that because that's the rep goal that I'm trying to reach is 6 to 10. Okay. So I warmed up. I did a 45. I did the just free weight and then 45 and then a 45 and a 25 and then a 45 and a 25 and a 10. And now I'm doing this. So let's hit at least 6, shall we? Oh. All right, that was definitely a successful set. I got 8 repetitions, so I will take that. I think that's great, especially for the first set of the day. Some form tips that I'm trying to cue myself on is I'm trying to keep my shoulder joint in relatively the same place the whole time while pressing. So I'm trying not to shrug up the weight, nor do I want to involve any other muscles. Sorry, I'm so out of breath. Nor do I want to involve any other muscles. So I'm really just focusing on getting the shoulder up and then exploding with the tricep at the top. I think that when you get stronger, you definitely have to be conscious of your form because if you're not careful while you're getting stronger, you don't do like your proper warm-up sets, and then you don't like ease your way into it with proper form, then you're more likely to injure yourself for sure. So definitely try and follow as strict a form as you possibly can. I forgot to mention is that the way that the program works is I increase sets over the weeks. That's kind of like my form of progressing besides just like self-motivation of, when I feel I can go up, I'll go up, and, depending on how it feels, like I'll adjust weight accordingly and this and that. So an increase in sets is already programmed in. And what I'm trying to say is that for last week on day 3 for the accessory day, I did 2 sets of these, but this week we're going up to 3 to add some additional shoulder stimulus. I was thinking before I even walked into the gym today, I was like, I hope that we're doing 3 sets of machine shoulder press because I really like that movement and I feel like I get a lot out of it. I feel like my form is pretty good and I can grind pretty easily. Something that I'm trying to enact on every rep is slowing down that eccentric and exploding on the concentric. So on the way down, slow, slow, slow. On the way up, explode. May not look like it, but that's what I'm trying to do. Something that I've barely discussed in the past is the idea of rep ranges. And for me, I'm just trying to hit like that moderate rep range for most of my exercises. What I quantify that as is like between 8 and 12 reps. People used to think that was like the the most hypertrophic, rep range. That's been busted for the most part, but still is some merit behind it. The reason why I say that it was busted is because they found out that any rep range can produce the same amount of results and will produce the same amount of results as long as failure is at least achieved or gotten close to. So as long as you're like pushing yourself sets really hard and with proper form and you get to that breaking point, then whatever rep range you do, between like 4 or 5 all the way up to like 30 or more is going to produce the same exact results. But the reason why I choose that moderate rep range of around 8 to 12 is for a couple reasons. Namely that it doesn't beat you up too much, and so like if you do a lower rep range and it's going to beat you up a lot and you're not going to be able to do a lot of volume before you just totally hit a wall or you can't recover from it or you injure yourself. And then when you're doing too many reps, then it's hard to find that breaking point to begin with. Like if you're doing over 20 reps, I usually just get bored and like give up before I even hit the right number. I wouldn't give up on like the first set or 2, but if I'm doing it for whole workouts, I'm going to get pretty annoyed, to be honest. So I just like to aim for that like 8 to 12 rep range. I can go a little above, a little below, whatever. It's not an exact science, guys. Just push yourself to the limits and only do like lower reps or higher reps if you can afford the turmoil that accompanies it, if that makes sense. So that's why I mainly stick to the moderate rep range. For this program, I'm hitting anywhere from 6 to 15 for the most part, but I tend to gravitate towards the 8 to 12 rep range regardless. Two more. Another thing that I'm really trying to do during these reps, especially the ones close to the end, when I remember, is I'm trying to drive my legs into the ground by pushing my quads. And I don't know the exact science behind it, but that definitely like increases some of like the force production that you're able to push off. I think it's because you're increasing the stability component, especially when both of your feet are on the ground. So I think that is a valuable thing. And powerlifters, when they're doing bench press, that's one of their cues. They keep their feet like firmly planted into the ground so they can use that leg drive when pushing maximal loads. So I try and use that same logic on any like difficult reps of a set. Sometimes I'll forget to use it in like the beginning when it's easier, but towards the end, I'm trying to use that cue. So if you guys like have the seat too high or something where you can't touch the ground with your feet, then maybe try putting a pad down where you can touch something at least, or lowering the seat, whatever you have to do. All right, next up, we're at the bicep easy bar curl. So this is our main bicep movement of the day. I'm going up from 80 pounds to 90 pounds. So it's a little bit of a jump. I mean, last time I got 12 repetitions for every single set that I did of the easy bar bicep curl. So that's on the upper range. So whenever you guys like start on the bottom range or something and slowly progress that given weight up to the top range of where you want to be at, I think that a crazy like tried and true progression is to increase the weight and then drop back the reps. So like, you know, I started in my last program with like 70 or 80 pounds and slowly worked my way up until I got 12 with them. And now I'm going to increase it by 10 pounds and then drop back the weight. Drop back the reps. I keep getting confused, and then work my way back up, and then, you know, rinse and repeat. Just kind of a tried and true progression, so to speak. All right, let's just get right into it. I'm doing as many strict reps as I can, and then I'll do some cheat curls and then some forearm work. That's gonna do it for strict form. That's it. I was at 3. I believe it was 3 reps, G reps. All right, now I'm flipping around. Now I'm gonna grab it from behind and do some wrist curls like this. Said it before, but I really like to superset the two as they go hand in hand. Okay. One set down. Something that I like to bring up really quick is when you have your wrist back like this and you do biceps, you're going to be feeling the bicep way more, and your bicep is actually going to be working into overdrive to bring that weight up. And the reason for that is because when your wrist is back like this, it's taking the forearm, a large portion of the forearm, out of the movement almost entirely. And just by doing that, your body compensates by shifting the emphasis and, you know, how much force you have to produce and whatnot and strength onto the biceps themselves in order to bring that weight up. Sometimes I'll throw in variations like that just to really focus on the biceps, but honestly, guys, the body is meant to work together. So I don't typically do that variation. I like to include the forearm work as well, because, you know, I'm trying to use all of it, and that especially zaps your strength. When you're doing it like this, your strength is going to be so limited because you're taking out the secondary mover of the exercise, which is the forearm. But if you guys have like lagging biceps and really want them to catch up, then I think that is a great variation that you should at least try once. The reason why I choose the easy bar bicep curl, you know, the one that's like a flattened W that I'm doing, I tend to choose that one because the conventional straight bar is just it like your wrists are put into such a compromised position that it just doesn't really feel that pleasant to me. Since your wrists, one of the primary functions of the biceps is actually to supinate the wrists. So when you're doing the easy bar curl, your wrists are already slightly being turned and supinated, and therefore, I don't know, it just feels more natural when you bring it up. I'm not sure if that's the reason why it feels so much better, but it makes sense to me, guys. But anyway, if I'm doing like the straight bar, then I'm really locked into place and I don't really get to move my body how it wants to move. And that's why I like to use this variation. One more. Okay. I was trying to hit 3 cheat reps. I'm honestly glad that I'm not at 3 sets of this yet. I know that it'll go up to 3 or maybe even 4 later on in the program. Right now, 2 is plenty, I'll tell you that much. My body hasn't really accumulated, haven't really gotten used to the higher training volumes yet. All right, guys, let's move on. We're gonna go and do a few supersets next to get some additional arm and abdominal volume. So let's get into it. Okay, next up, I'm doing the cable unilateral side delt raise. So the side delt fly. And I'm supersetting that with the unilateral cable pushdown, just like we did last week. And I'm choosing to go up. I'm going up to 27.5 on the tricep exercise, and then 17.5 on the cable exercise, on the, sorry, my words are blanking, on the side lateral raise exercise, the cable variation. So, you know, the reason why I'm going up is because I hit 12 repetitions for both sets last time. And like I mentioned on the bicep exercise, once I hit that upper range, I like to go up in weight and then just get as many as I possibly can. And then, you know, keep periodizing that way and keep on going up and keep pushing the limits. It's just another form of a progression, which, you know, ultimately is like progressive overload through. So that's what we're after. Anyway, let's get into it. I'm really going to focus on making sure that my form is good, because I find that when you increase weight too quickly, then your form is the first thing that goes out the window. So try and keep your form as pretty and perfect as you can, to ensure that as you're progressing that weight and progressing those reps, you maintain that momentum and you don't jump ahead too many steps at a time. That's the last thing you want to do, is to jump the gun and then have to pay the price, later down the road. Wow, I got 12 again. You know, I think that the secret here is that I increase the shoulder frequency tremendously. I used to only do shoulders twice a week, and now it's like 4 times a week if I really calculate it, because we have these 2 shoulder days and then the days that rotate on top of them. And then I'm hitting a press, I'm hitting a upright row, and some side cable work and side machine work. So we're really getting a whole gambit of shoulder exercises, and it's paying off. You know, that's a form of periodization as well. Something that I'm doing at the bottom of each of these repetitions is I'm letting my arm fall across my body each time, because whenever you're going across the body like this, like just pull your arm across, you're getting a bit of a stretch. Actually, it feels like you're getting more of a stretch in the, I guess that behind the body you get a greater stretch, but I never feel like I have enough force when I'm going behind the body. So, I mean, honestly, like if you guys want to do it behind the body or like a similar variation and you're running my program, you can totally like edit the program and just change it up. In fact, I expect you to do it if you don't have access to certain equipment. Okay. Triceps. Ooh. May have seemed like I could have gone more reps, but I guarantee the most reps I get is like 1 or a half rep. So that was definitely very challenging. My main like reminder to myself while I'm doing that is keep the elbow locked in place and really just focus on that elbow extension and flexion, just this movement, you know. Try and isolate it and add as much stability as you can to a pretty unstable movement as it is. Also kind of going across the body too. Oh, I noticed that I rushed that last eccentric of the very last rep a little bit too hastily. So that's gonna be something that I'll work on in the future. But you know, I'm really enjoying this workout in particular because I'm taking my time with each and every lift. You know, in the past when I would bring in my camera, I'd usually kind of be rushing through things just because I'm still getting used to the whole change of recording and talking through my workouts and stuff. But now that I'm getting more accustomed and comfortable with it, I'm finding that I can go back to my previous rest times, but with even more intensity, because, you know, I don't want you guys to make fun of me. Okay, I'm about ready. The beauty of doing unilateral exercises is you're resting while you're doing the other arm. So this arm is good to go. Oh. Something that I like to mention real quick before I get into the next one is control the weight, guys. Don't rush to the sets. Try your best. I'm guilty of rushing through many sets in my day, and I'm trying to stop that now. You know, when you rush through it, and I don't even mean just like rushing from one set to the next, but rushing while you're doing your reps of any given set. It's easy to rush through it and just check the box, but checking the box isn't enough. You got to make sure that that box is checked, circled, underlined, highlighted, etc. Okay, let's finish off this superset, guys. Come on. Come on. Sorry, that last rep was really challenging, and I was really tempted to kind of cheat through it. And yes, I cheated a little bit just by like, but it wasn't to the extent of, you know, using my whole body or anything. So I count it as a surefire win. I just got like a little like cramp in my neck. That's strange, but it means you're pushing hard. Next up, we're going to a tried and true superset here. We're hitting the posterior, then the anterior part of the arm. So we're going from a bicep curl into a tricep extension. Whenever you guys can superset something, I think that doing antagonist muscle groups is probably ideal, because while one is working, the other one is pretty much completely relaxed. So you're not going to be using it at all, and therefore it's a good way to go back and forth without taxing one over the other while you're doing so. I'm going up 5 pounds on each, and something that I mentioned last time, but I like to highlight again because I don't know if I was super clear, is I'm doing the unilateral cable Bayesian curl. So it's the one where you're completely stretched out like this, and then you're curling. So you're getting a deep stretch. The higher you set the cable machine, I don't know if you can see this, but this is where it is. It's not totally on the ground. The higher up it is, the more it'll force your arm backwards and force that stretch. Just grab something and feel a stretch on your bicep when you do that. So the higher up it is, the more of a stretch you'll get. The lower it is, the less of a stretch you'll get. So I kind of have it at a good point, I think, and I may adjust it accordingly if needed, but I'm trying to get that stretch because the way you stretch elicits more hypertrophy. I'm actually going to raise it a little bit more. Pretty high up now, but I think it was too low last time. Go up even higher. Okay. Ooh. That was definitely, the higher up you put it in, the more stress you get, the way more challenging the movement becomes, for sure. But challenging is often a good thing. Not always, but in this case, definitely a good thing. All right, got 10 on each. Now let's move into standing tricep extension, one of my favorite exercises. Okay, so if you're paying attention, I'm sure that you noticed that right there, I was a little bit forward. So what I did was I leaned backward with the cable. And the reason for that is because I want that strength, or that strength curve, to be directly behind me, so that this would be the movement of the tricep instead of it being like way back here. Because if it's further back, then while you're doing the lift, you're going to have a lesser advantageous position, and you're not going to be able to complete that stretched portion of the lift as easily. So it's actually, you're going to run into some issues with your range of motion as well as your stability. So the further in you are, the straighter that line of resistance is, the better. After reviewing the footage, I noticed that while doing the cable Bayesian curls, when I was out here, instead of keeping my elbows fixed, I was moving them a bit. This is totally an exaggeration, but I was moving it a little bit while I was doing the lift. And while I think that your first instinct is to say, oh, that's incorrect, you shouldn't be doing it that way, I like to rebuttal with saying that the two functions of the bicep are arm supination, so turning the wrists in like this, and humeral flexion, so bringing the arm up like this and above. So while I'm doing this movement, and you know, using my bicep and moving my humerus, this bone right here, up, that's actually humeral flexion. So I'm actually engaging in the proper biomechanics and function of the biceps by doing it that way. So whenever you're doing a bicep curl, don't be afraid to bring your arms up like this. The only thing that you don't want is you don't want to be bringing your torso into it, because then you're going to be assisting the biceps too much, where they should be just taking over the whole entire function of the movement. Because after all, during a curl of pretty much any sort, any curl, you're going to be wanting to work the biceps in isolation to the best of your ability. If you don't want to work the biceps in isolation, that's where your back movements come in. So set number 2. Sorry about the weird elephant noise I just made. Kind of like at a trunk. If I were to critique myself, I'd slow down that eccentric and really sink into the stretch a little bit more. But overall, I think that was pretty good form, especially for an exercise that I used to despise. I never really liked it because I didn't really feel the benefits. When you're doing an exercise, you know if it's working for you. You know what I mean? While you're doing it, you can tell that you like it or not. And whenever I would do this movement in the past, it never really grew on me. You know, I was never really like, oh, that's the movement that I love for my biceps. It's gonna give me great gains. It's gonna be a winner. Never. And maybe it's because I didn't give it its fair due. Never really actually took it to failure or anything like that. So sometimes sometimes it takes more than 1 or 2 times with the movement before it clicks, you know? Maybe sometimes it never clicks. Sometimes it clicks right off the bat, but I think at least give it a few sessions before you diss it, you know? Six, 7, 8. Okay, definitely an effective bicep tricep superset right there. It all takes place at the cable machines. If you guys choose not to run the program, at least give this superset a shot. I think you'll like it. Okay guys, I'm gonna attempt to show you the cable crunch. I'm sure you guys have seen it on like other channels and stuff, but it is my favorite abdominal exercise. And the reason for that is because you can load it so easily. And that's where people get abdominal training completely wrong. Everyone just thinks, oh, body weight crunches, you know, like ball sit-ups, bicycles, hanging leg raises, which they can all be effective exercises, but the way that people do them, I do not think is effective. For instance, they're not loading it properly and they're just doing reps. And while reps are great, eventually your strength is going to become stronger than the amount of reps that you can feasibly do. And that's where something like using a cable or a dumbbell or something like that comes into handy, especially with an exercise like this where you're pretty stable because your knees are on the ground, and then you're really getting that full range of motion of abdominal flexion and extension and you know, being able to really stretch it out and crunch it down under load. And that's why I think that this is a real winner and why I am programming it. I'm up to 87.5 here. Try and keep your hips into place and just crunch with your abs. That's my favorite aspect of this exercise, is that you get a huge stretch upon your abdominals. That's something that even when you're doing like a machine crunch, it's very rare to find, just because of how the machines are built, at least for my anatomy. It's difficult to get a full stretch and then like a really deep contraction. But with this one, it's easy. It just comes into play. And another thing with this movement is I'm really focusing on my breathing much more than other exercises, because when I'm crunching, I like to breathe out. It just helps. I don't know why, but it just helps. Anyway, I'm supersetting this with upright rows for some more delta activation. Hope that you guys can see this. Oh, I need to lower this. Whoops. Okay. I find that almost everybody that I've worked out with has really had trouble with the form on the cable crunch. I think that people just don't know how to like extend their thoracic spine and flex the thoracic spine in that regard, and they end up like being way too rigid throughout the movement. So really focus on keeping your hips into place and getting that bend. Really focus on that. Those are the two major parts. And then another major thing is try not to use your triceps to force the weight down. A lot of people, they tend to pull with their arms. Really just focus on that mind muscle connection with your abs. I know the mind muscle connection is so like, it's almost like a buzzword at this point, but really just focus on only contracting the abs when lifting the weight. Sometimes I like to hang out in that upper position just to reinforce the stretch. All right. Ah, frick. Okay, guys, I'm gonna call it there. All that I have left of week 2, day 3 is some captain chair leg raises, just 2 sets. Last time I got 12s for each one. So I'm gonna try and get 13 at least. And then, you know, that's gonna wrap it up. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. See you tomorrow for week 2, day 4.